Most probably we will get the lot of questions from exception handling actually. Why
Mm.
we will have this exception handling mechanism? What will be the benefit and what is the reason for introducing the exception handling? And what will be the hierarchies that we will have to understand? The first one is exception and error difference. They will ask basically what is error and what is exception.
Mm.
Exception is something which will occur during the compile time and runtime, and that is recoverable condition. So we can do the recovery and we can do some kind of a modification to make sure that piece of code can work. But
Mm.
error is something which will occur during the runtime, not compile time. It will be only on runtime, which
Mm.
you cannot recover by writing some lines of code. So that is system related, hardware related problem. It is completely code related problem, exception and error. Hope you are clear with
Mm.
this scenario. Exception is something which
Yeah.
is a recoverable condition. It may occur during the compile time or runtime. Error is something which will occur during the runtime, which we cannot do some code change by writing some code. Out of memory exception, heap memory exception. These all are the errors which we cannot recover. Okay.
Mm.
So
Okay.
now what is the reason for having this exception handling? First of all, see,
Mm.
basically I am writing assume I'm writing the 100 lines of code. Okay, 100
Mm.
lines of code I am writing.
Mm.
When I write 100 lines of code, I have a very proper syntaxes. I don't have any grammar mistakes and those valid code that I'm writing, but there was some mistake in the line number 50.
Mm.
So what will happen is, if I don't have this exception handling mechanism, irrespective of checking what is happening from 51 line to 100 line, it will
Mm.
terminate the entire flow. The flow will be terminated.
Mm.
So the flow will be terminated irrespective of what is the issue. Now what I wanted to do is to have the smooth execution flow. To avoid such kind of a scenarios, we have the exception handling mechanism. We can handle the exception by using some predefined or reserved words. Exception handling related reserved words. Those
Okay.
are try, catch, and finally block. Try
Yeah.
and catch and finally block. Now I wanted to show you this scenario also. Okay, meanwhile, I will walk through these advantages. What is the use of try block actually? So here we said like line number 50, you may get a chance to get an exception, right?
Yeah.
To avoid the termination or the flow execution, it has to be smooth execution. To make sure we are executing the line number 51 code, what we have to do is we have to keep the code which is suspect. So lines of code, whatever the code you feel that there will be chance of getting the exception, we have to keep that code inside the try block. That is what try block will do. Means when you suspect something,
Mm.
when you suspect that lines may give gives us the exception, so we'll keep that code inside the try block. So what catch block will do, try, you cannot write only one try block. It should be combination with try or sorry catch or finally block. Try should
Mm.
be with catch or finally block. You cannot write only try block. So
Okay.
what this catch will do, this catch will try to catch the exception catch the exception which is occurred during execution of try block code. So you're writing some code, the try block is giving some exception. This catch will catch the exception if the defined exception is matching with the catch block. And the last one is finally block. Finally will help you to execute the code irrespective of the exception placed in the try block or not. This is finally block. Okay, so this is how we will write it.
So
Most mm,
can you explain finally again? So what?
yeah, I will tell you.
Uh,
If you are if you wanted to execute a piece of code,
right.
you don't care whether exception is taking place or not, then we will use the finally block. I
Oh,
will
okay.
tell
So
you some
where?
scenarios where to use this finally. For
Yeah.
example, I have file input output stream. Okay.
Mm, yeah. So basically, whether the exception will be catched or no,
Yes.
it it
So
the
I have the piece of
code.
code like file input output stream and new file input output stream. Okay. I am
Yeah.
reading some file and I wanted to write or I wanted to retrieve that data, and that may not having the data, that will give the null pointer exception. So I wanted to access the data which is present and that is not there. So that is what is giving the null pointer exception. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it is giving the exception and the catch block will execute and it will tells that a null pointer exception you try to fi does dot write or read, you're trying to access it and you are reading the data and it is giving the null that the file does not have some data. Now the object you are retrieving is null and you are performing some operations. Null
Mm,
that object dot equals method or some method that you are using, that will gives the obviously null pointer exception or some exception it will give. So
right.
if it gives the some exception, right? If it gives the some exception, this flow will be terminated. Catch will try to help me to catch it, and next line of the code will execute. But the
Mm,
object which is there, file object,
mm,
that remains open. That object still alive. Then it
oh,
will consumes the memory. Heap memory it will consumes. Somebody is trying to access, same time this you are getting again heap memory, that
mm,
object still alive. So no matter what is happening in this catch block or try block, it is not executed, it is terminated. I
oh,
wanted to close this file, fis dot close. So what will happen is, I don't care if this logic is working fine, well and good.
mm,
We will get the object, we will read it, and we will do the manipulation. And after manipulation, the finally will execute and it will close the file instance. Even it is an error, finally
mm.
will execute and it will terminate the object which is present in the try block. You
Oh,
got
okay.
it?
Yeah.
So that is the use of finally black. And the second example also I will tell you. Most probably will use this example. And when you made the JDBC or Hibernate connection,
Mm,
we will have the connection object and we will have the session object.
mm,
All right. So
yeah.
you have the piece of code. You are writing class dot for name JDBC driver and driver manager object equals to driver manager dot get. You are passing the URL, username, and password. After that statement, driver manager dot create statement you are using. Then you are executing some code. Now that piece of code giving the some SQL exception. The syntax that you have written is not valid syntax,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
that gives the exception. It is coming to the catch block. Next line of code, whatever you are writing, that will not execute. Now in this time, again, the session or connection object will be alive. Again, it will consume the memory. Most
Mm.
of the times, if you are not closing that, it will be open.
Oh,
What if
okay.
in case if you are writing this close in the try block, if that is giving the exception, that line will not execute. Even if
Mm.
you feel like you are closing, but that line will not execute. Then this connection object will be alive. Same for
Mm.
session object also, it will be alive. So
Mm.
if I am keeping that connection dot close or session dot close in the finally block, no
Mm.
matter whether the exception is getting placed in the try block or not, my connection object or file object will be terminated. Then there will be no heap consumption.
Mm.
You're getting?
Yeah.
So that is the benefit of it. So
Final.
now this is the finally block. Next important question is, can we have the multiple finally blocks? We cannot have multiple finals. Okay,
Mul-
we
Multiple
can have the,
finally blocks, right?
yeah, sorry.
Finally. Yeah.
So we can have the multiple multiple catch blocks. But here you have to make sure one thing. What is the thing is, if you write the catch blocks, you have to follow the hierarchy. This is important. If you
Mm.
are not following the hierarchy, then it will gives the compile time error. Top level should be exception and next level should be the arithmetic or some exceptions that you have to write it.
Okay.
Again, what if I have the return type present in the finally and try block? What will be the output? Okay. What
Mm.
if I have the return type present in the try and finally, which one will execute? Very important interview question. That is the first one. What if I have the system exit in the try block? Will the final execute or not? So these are the couple of things that scenarios I will practice and I will tell you that.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we have the written statement in finally also, top reference will go to the finally one only. So I will show you that example. Okay. So assume I have the simple method public. Okay. Public int. Okay. I'm returning integer. Add method I have. Now I have the finally with catch with finally and everything we will write it. Try catch finally. These are the important interview questions actually. So now I have the add method. Here I am returning the 1. Okay, it is not giving any exception. Assume I am not getting any exception. Here I am returning 2.
Mm.
Okay, I have some main method. So here we have to understand some scenarios. Public void main, and you have to get value int x equals to public. I'm static. Instead of creating object, I'm writing the static add.
Mm.
I just wanted to print this method, call this method, and I wanted to see what it is printing. The first
Okay.
case.
Mm.
I don't have anything present in the try or catch block. I'm just throwing the new exception.
Mm.
Okay, so now I wanted to see what will be the value of x. You're getting my point?
Yeah.
No matter whether it is throwing or exception or not. This finally you're trying to return something. The highest
Mm.
priority is going to the finally, and it is giving the return type 2, and you can see whatever content that was present in the finally block that is executing. What if here I'm returning 3? Assume I am not getting the exception here. And 4. I don't have any exception placed here. You're getting my point? It is
Yes.
very, very important interview question. I have faced actually in recent interviews. They
Okay.
will give you this logic. Either exception throws or exception not throwing. So
Mm.
what is happening is high priority of the return value will be existing in the finally block.
Finally block.
You're getting my point, right? So
Yeah.
this is the important point. When you have the return, when you have the return statement in finally block, it will be the
High priority.
high priority. Okay, so it will be the high priority.
So we cannot print both if
No, it is not possible.
it's not possible. Okay. Yeah. Mm.
You're clear?
Yeah. Yes.
1 second. 1 minute, please.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay, so now when you have the written statement, it is present in the final block, it will be the high priority. So
Mm.
you are asking some question, Prakash.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, you know, is it possible to print
Both, right?
both? Yeah.
So finally, actually, when you have the written for a method, we
Yeah.
can have only one value which will be going to return.
Oh, yeah,
Based
that's
upon the conditions, what we has to be executed, that block will decide. But
yeah,
only one value we can return by end of the execution.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm. Mm.
So if in case I don't have the written statement in the finity block, here
Mm.
I don't have the written statement by default. This executes the value which is present in the this
Right.
one. But what what happens?
Written should have some written, right?
Okay. So what happens is when you wanted to have the written statement in the try block, and you are
Mm.
sure that that is going to execute, it is not
Mm.
giving the error. That time this for will execute. But if you are writing the written statement in the try block, it is mandatory to have the written statement that should be present in the end of the code. The reason
Oh.
why I will tell you. In case if this block of code is not giving the exception, right?
Mm. Yeah.
We should have something to return.
Written.
Okay,
Yeah.
if it is giving the exception in the top line, you have some line of code, block of
Mm.
code that was present, and that is giving the exception. Obviously, this return for will not execute.
Mm.
Then you need some return statement by defaultly for this method, since you
Right.
have the return type of integer.
Yeah.
In case this try block is not giving any error, then whatever the return value that was present in the try block, that will be going to execute.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. In
Yeah.
case this is giving me some exception, then this return statement will going to execute it.
Right.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
So next one is I will directly come to some statement. I have something called a system.out.println hello. Okay. Assume you want as what we mentioned is whatever the code that was present in this finally block, by default this block will execute. That's what we have discussed so far.
Right.
Assume I don't have any return type, I don't have any return statement what was present. What I'm doing in the try block or catch block, what I'm doing is system dot, this is one of the interview question. Okay, if you
Mm.
have this is exit statement, We're calling this add method alone. Can't. So finally block should print the hello, but I'm not getting the hello. Statement that we have experimented finally block is if there was a code that is present in the final block, it will execute. That's what we have discussed. But when you have the sys exit statement in anywhere, either try or catch block, the flow complete Java will be terminated and the finally block will not execute when you have the system exit statement.
Okay.
When we have the system exit statement, we cannot execute the finally block code. You're clear?
Yeah, right.
So I will quickly send new link. You can join. I will discuss one other scenario.
Okay, okay.